Good afternoon, everybody. We're here this afternoon with Dr. Joe Latimore in the Department of Fisheries and Wildlife, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Dr. Joe Latimore. I've been a faculty in the Department of Fisheries and Wildlife since 2008. And my position here is I am an aquatic ecologist and an outreach specialist.
Right. So tell us a little bit about what it means to be an outreach specialist.
Sure. So in my position, actually, I don't have a formal teaching or research appointment, although I do a little bit of both. My focus is primarily on outreach, which means that I'm working with outside partners. And that can be anyone from an individual who owns a home on a lake or a river to agencies like the Michigan DNR or the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy. I also work with federal agencies and tribes and nonprofit organizations all around the state and around the Great Lakes region that are interested in lake and stream protection and watershed protection. I help build connections between the university and all the great research that we're doing and learning that we have and expertise that we have on campus and those organizations that need that for their daily work.
Great. Yeah, so you have some really important projects. Do you want to tell them a little bit about the invasive species work that you do?
Sure, yeah, a lot of my work focuses around aquatic invasive species. We know that aquatic invasive species have a huge impact on the health of our lakes and rivers in Michigan and beyond. And we also know that one of the main ways that invasive species are introduced and spread is through human activity. So this is a really interesting intersection of the science and the ecology behind invasive species, plants and animals, and even viruses that invade our waterways, and people, the communities and the users, anglers, boaters, people who have aquariums or have water gardens in their backyard where they plant ornamental plants or put fish like koi in there. There's a lot of use of non-native species, and sometimes these can be intentionally or often unintentionally spread through our recreational activities and regular human activities. So I'm involved with a number of projects that are researching the movement of invasive species and also doing research into what makes effective outreach. How can we best communicate with the public and with users about how to keep invasive species from spreading? So as I mentioned before, we work with boaters and anglers as individuals. We also work with the organizations that they're members of and the organizations that support them, like the DNR, to help figure out the best ways of communicating the risk about invasive species and also to illustrate how they can best, the simple things in most cases they can do to prevent spreading them inadvertently themselves.
Yeah, wow, yeah. I know that you have a lot of kind of outward-facing projects that really do connect our department to a lot of stakeholders in the state. What got you into this, interested in this in the first place? What brought you to biology or fisheries and wildlife?
Well, I think like a lot of people, I'm from Michigan originally. That's my background. I was raised here, and as a kid, spent a lot of time playing outside around lakes and swamps and streams and mucking around out there and getting really interested in how it all worked. And I wanted to be able to put a name on everything. What is this thing I caught? What is this slimy creature, this fish, this snail, this turtle? What was it? So that got me really interested in biology and how it all worked and a chance to be outside. And I continued that, as I eventually learned through school that this is something you could actually get paid to do. That was even more exciting. And so, I continued on, got an undergraduate degree in biology. And during that time, was able to have several great experiences, especially during the summer, internships during the summer where I got to experience a lot of different aspects of both aquatic and terrestrial biology. And that helped me kind of focus down even more that working in aquatics is what I really wanted to do.
Great, yeah. Well, so you work with some very important issues, obviously invasive species, and you're welcome to choose that as what you think is the most important issue facing fisheries and wildlife management and conservation today. But if you had to pick one issue or two issues that you think are the most pressing, what do you think they are?
Well, invasive species is definitely a major issue, but it's also connected to a broader issue that I think is really important, and that is how we communicate our science and engage the public in science around conservation, around fisheries and wildlife, around ecosystems. For a long time, the approach has been, researchers do their work over here and the users use the resource over here. And there wasn't always effective ways to communicate information and research outcomes between those two groups. And we didn't, as scientists, we didn't always hear what the public was concerned about. The public didn't always, get information from us about what we were concerned about. And so we're definitely making a lot of progress in that. We're seeing, at the university level, but also within agencies and so forth, a lot more interest in, that interface between people and the ecosystems, and not studying them separately, but understanding that people are part of these systems. And so invasive species is a great example of that, because a lot of members of the public are really concerned about it. They're a major vector for invasive species movement around the state and beyond. And so, that provides us an opportunity to test different approaches to communication and engagement. It's an issue that so many of us are very concerned about. So it provides a great opportunity for us to look at what we can do, not just on the research side, but also with the communication and engagement side on battling this issue, because it's not something that's going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah, so that kind of leads to some advice, that you indirectly gave for fisheries and wildlife students. But, these are FW 101 students that we're sharing this with. And I wondered what advice you have for people starting, either starting a major in fisheries and wildlife or considering a major in fisheries and wildlife.
Sure. Two things, and both of them I have touched on a little bit already. One of them is, experiences, internships, summer positions, even, volunteer experience during the academic year. It's great to learn about these topics in class, and you can get a lot of great experiences that way. But when you can really dive in as part of a job or a volunteer position and learn about some of the ins and outs of what it's really like to have a career in the field, that can help immensely, help you kind of narrow down your focus area of what you're really excited about. May also help you eliminate some areas that you're like, I learned stuff, but I don't think I could see myself doing this for the rest of my life. That's really important. So I'd encourage you to take advantage of those kinds of opportunities. And then the second thing is communication. A lot of us are attracted to fisheries and wildlife because we love being outdoors. Maybe we enjoy the solitude of it, being alone with nature. But we can't forget that people are a part of these systems. And so, take your field classes, take your science class and all of that, but, getting experiences in honing your communication skills is something that will serve you really well, regardless of the career direction you go in. And it's also something that more and more in the natural resources employers are looking for. They recognize that, you may be a job candidate, might come in and not have every bit of technical knowledge that they'll need for the job, but they probably can pick that up on the job. But there won't be a lot of opportunity to pick up communication skills and get that practice where you're confident dealing with a variety of different audiences. And that could be, an angler you run into at a boat launch. It could be, a neighborhood committee that's concerned about flooding. It could be a number of different things, either supporting the work you're doing or, worried or upset about the work that you're doing. So being able to adjust your communication styles and have practice doing different types of communication with different audiences will make your career path a lot easier.
Yeah, you mentioned being from Michigan originally, and I am as well. And sometimes that background that we have can really help us with that communication piece as well, that we are from certain communities. We talk like the people in that community. Unfortunately, once you get to the level of, you've studied for so long that you have a PhD, sometimes you do lose that. You have to kind of regain that. But
Yep.
it is something to keep in mind that being able to communicate with the public is really front and foremost in how we can make an impact with our work. So
I would agree. And in fact, I've had work experiences just like that where, I grew up in a, farm community, a rural community north of Lansing. And, I've had opportunities to work with farmers and work in agricultural communities. And, it was a lot easier, I think, for me to get in the door when I was able to tell them where I was from and talk about, some of my experiences growing up and being able to relate a little bit. It's great to be able to tap into that, no matter what it is, finding that common ground is a really great way to start conversations with community members. Maybe you both enjoy fishing, or you both enjoy boating, or you have some kind of background in common. That can definitely help.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And I'm happy that you were able to share your knowledge and introduce yourself to the fisheries and wildlife students. And hope you have a good rest of your summer. And I will sign off.